So believe it or not, there's a lot of good men out there. All right. Just as there are tons of good women out there. I always say the problem is good men and good women are having a hard time finding each other. But with that said, even good people make mistakes. Even good people sabotage their relationships unknowingly due to sometimes bad advice, due to unresolved trauma, you name it, right? And so I think it's important that you understand as a woman the things you need to avoid doing that can sabotage your own relationship. And some of these things I'm going to mention today, you may have already done. And I don't want you to feel judged, right? I'm not trying to beat you up. I don't want you to beat yourself up or feel bad. I just want you to learn, be aware, be willing to say, you know what? He's right. I have engaged in that. That was a problem, right? And now we can do better going forward. But I think some of these things might come as a surprise because, again, some of them you don't even realize how much it causes a problem for your dating or in your relationships, relationship dynamics. So let's get to it, right? So one of the first surprising ways that women sabotage their own relationships is telling friends or family too much one-sided information, okay? So let's get into it. I think, first let me say, I think it's important that we be very careful with how many people we invite into our relationship. I definitely think it's good to have someone you can talk to, someone healthy that you can talk to. Because a huge mistake that people make is they go talking to their negative, miserable friend or family member or whoever, and it's like you can't expect good, positive, healthy advice to come from that source. So you got to be careful with that. And if you don't have any good, positive, healthy friends or family around you, okay, then maybe you need a professional that you can talk to. Either way, be mindful of that aspect of it. But it is normal to want to talk to somebody. It is normal to share information with people. Unfortunately, though, it's very normal to share the bad and not the good. Because when you're happy and things are good, well, you're just enjoying yourself. And yeah, you might talk about some nice things that are done here and there, but shoot, some women have a fear of, well, I don't want to tell other women how good my man treats me, so they don't try to target him themselves. So a lot of the good stuff may get left alone in discussion. But when something bad happens, oh, we're running, oh, I can't believe they did this, or what do you think about that? And so now, these other people are constantly hearing things from one side. They're not just only hearing or more often hearing the bad, but they're also only hearing it from your perspective, right? And it's very normal as people to present how someone did us wrong, but not necessarily include what we may have done wrong too, okay? Because in that moment, you're looking for someone to validate you, to console you. So you may leave out some very important details that would alter how the story is received. Now, as time goes along, what happens is you've created this negative resume of your partner that your friends or family know about without enough of the good to counter it. Now, of course, if the situation is that you are in a toxic relationship or with the wrong person, then this isn't really a problem because you don't need to be with them anyway. So who cares if they only have a negative perspective of him? That just gives it more fuel for them to motivate you to let go. But you have situations that have the potential to grow into something more, be something special, get worked out, because even though there's a problem, it doesn't mean it isn't a solvable problem. But now you've given these friends and family so much negative ammunition that instead of encouraging you to work things out or take a better approach, it's, oh no, he's wrong for you. You need to let him go. All these negative things. And also what happens is you're not being encouraged in how you need to handle things better because, again, they're not hearing both sides. They're not hearing maybe how you talk to him a certain kind of way that made him feel disrespected. And it doesn't validate his negative reaction, but it would explain why he may have said such and such, or he may have done such and such, right? That if these third parties knew about, they'd be like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, it's not as bad as I thought. It's not what I assumed of this individual. So all that leads to now what I will call unhealthy advice, because it's not advice with a full perspective. And it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game to play. Also, let me say this. What I've seen happen for many people is, if you've only told your friends and family all this bad, or mainly a lot of bad, not enough of the good, right? That would counter all of that. Or not enough of the full story. Then let's say you break up with an individual. And let's say you have a desire, or maybe you're thinking about getting back with them, because deep inside you may know, like, okay, you know what? It's not as bad as they know it. There's more to the story than that, right? You're the one that's actually living it. But now you fueled them with an unwillingness to embrace or encourage you to give things a second chance. Now, I know some of y'all be like, well, once an ex, always an ex. No, that actually should not be the case. Some people deserve to be exes and stay that way, and some situations do need to be revisited. You have to take a deeper look at things, all right? But it's hard to do that if you've told everybody all this bad stuff, and now they're going to make you feel like you're a dummy if you go back. But if they knew the whole situation, they may view it a lot differently. So bottom line is, too much one-sided information and talking to too many negative people is a huge mistake that will sabotage your relationship. All right. So now another surprising way that women sabotage their own relationships. And please hear me out. Don't react. Okay. The other surprising way is thinking he's supposed to chase you. All right. Now listen, I know some of you are going to say, well, it's not chase, but it's pursue. Tomato, tomato. Okay. Like, I get it. Don't get me wrong. There is a difference between chase and pursue, but I think a lot of women don't realize they're going about it the same way. And essentially, to make it more clear, you're putting more onus or emphasis on him and what he should be doing, and you're not mindful of the effort that you need to also put in, or you reciprocating his efforts. Okay? And so what happens is you'll have situations like, I've talked to so many women who will tell me, oh, they were dating a guy, and let's say for the first month or maybe even 3 months, right? He was pursuing them hard. He was calling daily. He was making efforts. He was showing up. And then after 3 months, it just stopped and it's done, right? And they're like, oh, these men are playing games. They're not serious. You know, they make you think they like you, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And I'm like, hold on. Let me ask you something. During these 3 months where he was calling and doing all this stuff, were you giving him the same effort? And they're like, no. And they're saying no, like, I'm not supposed to give the same effort. Like, he's supposed to show me he's serious. Well, that's the problem. You think it's supposed to be this one-sided affair, and that you get to sit back and wait for him to prove his worthiness to you, but you're not showing him anything. And a lot of these men, I'm not saying no man has never acted great initially because he's playing games, and then he fully plans to pull away after he gets what he wants or whatever the case may be. But there's tons of situations where he pulled away or stopped doing the things because he wasn't seeing that effort from you. And the reality is that, listen, a healthy relationship requires two people who are running towards each other, working together to build something special. And men have gone through just as, okay, I don't want to make it about just as much, but men have gone through plenty when it comes to being hurt, being played, being let down. So yeah, you know what? Just as much as women, though you may not think that, it may not seem that way to you, it's true. Okay? So they have their own concerns. So if that man is seeing you not reciprocate, then he has reason to question, are you playing him? Are you wasting his time? And just as I talked about earlier about talking to friends and family and giving them one-sided information, well, even if it's one-sided or not, trust and believe he may have a friend in his ear that's like, yo, This girl's not doing anything for you. You keep chasing after her. I don't think she likes you like that, man. Leave her alone. All right. And over time, it's going to be hard for him to convince himself that I should still be making these efforts when she's not showing up the way that I need her to. So don't fall into that trap of thinking it's just on him. No, you both have to make an effort. And look at it like this. For those of you who are believers, you don't have to chase what God sent. So if you are truly a blessing to that man, why should he have to chase you if that's where God wanted him to be? God is not asking you as a woman or him as a man to chase anyone. Okay? That throws everything out of order. And if anything, that positions that person that we're chasing as our new God. They become our idol. All right. And that's not healthy in any kind of way. And I know some of you may say, well, I've seen relationships that turn to marriages where that's the approach the woman took. Listen, there's exceptions to every rule, but I'm going to tell you, for every good story you give me, I can give you 10, 100 more where it's a disaster after they finally get together. Because let me say this to you, in many cases, if you are making him chase you and not reciprocating his efforts, then there's one or two things that's probably at play there. And that is either you have some trauma that makes you guarded, right? So you have some things you need to heal from, or you don't really like him like that. Like you might be entertaining him. You might be giving it a chance. You might want to see where it can possibly go, but you're not really feeling him like that. And that makes it easier for you to hold back. Because when a woman really likes a man, you almost have to fight yourself from doing too much. All right. You're coaching yourself in the mirror like, girl, don't call him. Don't do this. Slow down. Relax. So if you can just with ease sit back and let him do everything, no, there's a problem. There's a problem. So thinking he's supposed to chase you definitely can backfire and sabotage your potential relationship. Now, real quick, before I move on to the next point, I want to add this, all right? Because I know my cameraman brought it to my attention. One of the complaints you hear from women while dating is they feel like, well, this man's not taking me out enough. He's not serious. He always wants to go out. And I think that women a lot of times assume that the man who doesn't want to take you out consistently just wants something casual, or he's just trying to sleep with you, whatever. He just wants it easy. And listen, sometimes that's the case, but I think some of you aren't considering that taking you out is expensive too. Okay. And it's not easy depending on where that man is in life. And again, I agree. Cause I know some of you will say, well, if he can't afford it, if he's broke, he shouldn't be dating. I'm not even arguing that, but there's a difference between broke versus, all right, he can pay his bills, he can stand on his own 2 feet, but now extracurricular activities, it's not easy in today's economy, in today's world to constantly be doing that. So I just want to highlight the fact that if taking you out and spending money is a barometer that you're using to evaluate his efforts, be a little bit more open-minded. I think what you have to look at is, all right, is the communication there? Is he showing up the way that you want him to, right? And it doesn't mean, okay, you have to be hanging out at your house. And I'm not even saying that you have to engage in intimacy. I'm just saying that maybe getting more creative with the way that we go out. So, okay, if you want to go out, cool, but make it known to him. It doesn't have to be something extravagant or money being spent. And that can take a lot of pressure off that allows for more opportunities to be had. All right. So just something to consider that I want to throw out there. All right. So now another surprising way, and I don't know if it's really surprising, but it's another way women sabotage their own relationships, is projecting too much negativity onto the man. Okay. Now, what I'm talking about here is, I'm going to give an example. I once spoke to a coaching client, and she meets this guy, and immediately she's just like projecting all these negative thoughts like, oh, because of his job, he's not going to have time for me. Oh, because of this, he's not going to be emotionally available. Oh, because of this, he's probably looking for something. She's just projecting and throwing that all out to this man. And even though she may not be saying it to him, she's putting it in her own head, which allows her to put a wall up or completely retreat from a situation. And it's like, yo, why are you assuming and projecting these things and not giving him an opportunity to explain things for himself, right? Rather than you just thinking he's not going to be serious or he's not going to like this or he's not going to do that. It's like, yo, just address it with him, right? But it goes beyond that, because many times as a woman, if you've had previous situations and experience where men have hurt you, did you wrong, whatever the case may be, and you haven't gone through the healing process with those things, well, it's very easy to now be triggered by little things. And you're still projecting negativity in the sense that, let's just say, let's say he doesn't open your car door. I don't know why that example popped in my head, right? And let's say that was something that your ex never did, and immediately it got you thinking, oh, he's just like that joker, and you go off the edge from there, right? But in this case, he just didn't know that was something that you enjoy. Maybe the last few women he dated never wanted him to open their door, believe it or not, right? They might say, oh, no, I can handle my own door opening. I'm good, right? And yes, that does exist. There are women that will say stuff like that. I don't know if you guys ever watched, I had an interview once with Lisa Bailu from Women of Impact. You can always check out her channel. And she was telling me how a friend of hers went on a date. And at the end of the date, the check comes, right? And the guy's just looking at the check. So she's looking at the check and she's like, I ain't paying this, right? And he's just staring at it. So they're both just sitting there at this standoff. And then after a few minutes, he's like, oh, thank God. And he takes it. And she's like, what was that all about? And he's like, because he said, I didn't know if it would be a problem for you for me to go pay for the check, because the last time I did that, the woman chewed him out and told him, what you think, I can't pay for my own date? And it turned into this whole big thing. So because I guess he was a little traumatized, he wasn't sure how to handle it. Now, of course, I would say to him, you can't be projecting onto her like that. But I'm using that example to say that his action in that moment wasn't due to an unwillingness to do something for you, but was due to him having an experience where when he did it, it wasn't welcomed. It wasn't appreciated. It wasn't desired. Right? And so that's why we have to always be willing just to talk and not project and not jump to conclusions and all these different things, because now that can lead us down a very negative path that derails the entire relationship. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And building off what we were just talking about, another surprising way that women sabotage their own relationships is overthinking and assuming. All right. Now, we just kind of talked about it, but let's dive a little bit more into it. And let's start with the overthinking. Okay. And I had to stress it like that or say it like that because so many of you, I love y'all, but so many of you overthink and you drive yourselves crazy. Okay. And unfortunately, what happens is in all this overthinking, you are capable of creating all kinds of scenarios in your head that don't even exist. Right? That don't actually apply to your situation, but you've now believed it because you've dwelled on this so much and convinced yourself that must be what's going on. That must be the reason, right? And now you're behaving or reacting off of your overthinking, not based on the actual reality of the situation. Okay? Now, some of that overthinking can be magnified by talking to too many different people, right? And now they're interjecting their perspectives and their ideas. And so now, again, those various scenarios you're creating in your head just got added a few more to it, right? And not only does it lead to you potentially reacting off of something that doesn't actually exist, but it causes you all kinds of stress. Right? And anxiety and confusion. And now, if you do react to it a certain kind of way, can create new problems. So there's one story I have real quick where a woman was dating a man and I forgot what led her. I guess her friends was like, oh, you need to look him up and make sure he's single. Now, I don't have a problem with women like wanting to do background checks on a man, essentially, like doing a little research to make sure you know what you're dealing with, right? Well, either way, she Googles this man, and in the Google, it says he's married, right? So and this is not, I guess this isn't really a example of overthinking, but it is an example of reacting before addressing. So she sees that and she flies off the handle and she curses him out and she blocks him. Well, it turns out Google was talking about some other man. So let's just say this man was an Asian man. I'm using different races just to cover the story, but let's say he was an Asian man. Well, Google was actually referencing an Indian man. Like it was the same name, but it was a different dude. Okay. So the guy she was talking to was not married, was not lying to her, but rather than address it, she just reacted, shot herself in the foot. And then when she finally realized, oh my gosh, I got this wrong, and try to get, reach back out to him, he ain't want it no more. He was like, nah, like the way that you handle things said a lot to me, and I'm good. I'm good. I don't need that drama. I'm out. And she missed out on potentially a great guy because of that, right? So you got to be careful. And so this brings me to the whole assuming aspect. So again, like, you just got to stop jumping to conclusions and just talk. Now, it's human nature to, in a moment, like I think everyone could have a moment of overthinking and a moment of assuming. So at the very least, the thing is, don't react off of that. Don't move forward based off of maybes and potentials. No, get confirmation first. Okay. The only version of, and I don't want to call it overthinking, and I don't even want to call it assuming, but some may view it that way. The only version of this that I would accept is you listening to your intuition. If your intuition is telling you something, I'm not going to argue against it. I'm not going to tell you to go to look past it any kind of way. I think it's still great to discuss, but if your intuition is telling you, listen, no discussion, go, leave it alone, this is done, so be it. So be it. But outside of that, no. Now, some of you may be asking, well, what's the difference between me overthinking and me listening to my intuition? Like, how do I know it's me versus my spirit, my intuition? Well, one way to look at it is this. When you're overthinking, when you're assuming, a lot of that is based off of fear, okay? And fear requires a level of information and what one would consider logic to come to a certain conclusion. So because of this, and this, or because I'm seeing this happening with him, I reached the conclusion of that, right? Intuition requires no information, no logic. Essentially, everything on the surface could look amazing, but your spirit is telling you something's wrong. This is bad. You need to go. You need to leave. You need to let that person go, whatever the case may be. So for you to help tap into your intuition, you almost have to quiet all the outside noise. You have to essentially stop thinking and start sensing, start feeling, start being aware of what's going on within and not all the outside stuff and what you see on the surface, because that can confuse you. Just listen to your spirit. So again, that's acceptable. But overthinking and assuming, you got to stop that because that will sabotage things. All right, so a few more to go. Another surprising way, and I say surprising because I think women aren't really aware of this, that women sabotage their relationships is being very emotionally selfish. Okay? So really we can talk about being selfish in general, but I want to highlight the emotional part because I think it is so easy for a woman to get caught up in how she feels about something that she doesn't even realize she's ignoring how he feels. Okay? And not just ignoring how he feels about things, but dismisses how he feels about things. You know, though there are men out there who are bad communicators and are struggle or unwilling to open up to a woman, there are many men out there who attempted to, and they shut down because of the way the woman responds to it, the way that she handles his expression of his feelings. She's not really listening. She's quick to get offended. She's dismissive. She's devaluing his position. And it's like, why am I going to keep trying to talk to you? Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of men that even when that's happening, they won't leave the woman, but they will stop opening up. Okay? Which is not healthy, but it happens a lot. So as a woman, you have to have a level of emotional intelligence that says, I can be aware of how I feel. I can understand it is important to embrace that and express that, but not lose sight of what's going on with him. Not lose sight of how this impacts him, all right? And when you can pull yourself out of your own feelings for a moment to be present for him, that's going to strengthen the relationship. But again, so many women, they don't even realize they're doing it. And let me tell you, it's not just with men. Like, you ever talk to somebody, and let's just make it about women. You ever talk to a woman where anytime you bring up an issue to her, somehow she makes it about her? Like, and what I mean is, like, you could be like, yeah, you know, I went to work today and this boss did boom, 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 right? And somehow, rather than her focusing on you, how you're feeling, what you're going through, it's like, yeah, because, you know, when that happens to me, and then it's like, the whole conversation shifts to her. And it's like, dang, this was supposed to be about me. Okay? And so, some of y'all don't realize you may be that woman. And I say that with love, right? Again, I ain't attacking y'all, but you may not realize that sometimes you're quick to make everything shift back to you rather than staying at where this man needs to stay at, with expressing things and addressing it in the way that he needs to be poured into in that moment. So bottom line is, and I'm going to give one more thing before we move on. Another good example of being emotionally selfish is disregarding the timing of having certain discussions. Meaning, all right, if this man just came home from work, he's stressed out, he's tired, he's hungry, he ain't had a moment to rest his feet, and you think this is the time now to come at him emotionally dumping or making demands or expressing frustration, it's like, yo, you only care about how you feel right now. So you think whatever time you want to speak is the time to speak. But it's like, be considerate of, is this a good time for him? Now, I know some of you might say, well, it's never a good time for him. Okay, that's a different issue. That might speak to you being with the wrong person, or you guys needing structure put in place to have better communication. But that doesn't absolve you of not considering what is proper timing for him when you guys are going to talk about certain things. All right. So a couple more important, surprising ways that women self-sabotage their relationships is by being too guarded. Okay. So I remember one time I was speaking to a woman, she was married, and I said to her, I said, you know, even though you married this man, you've never given this man your whole heart. And she was shocked. She said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I said, no, you've always been guarded and you've always kind of held back. Like, it doesn't mean you haven't poured into the relationship. It doesn't mean you haven't been there for him in certain kind of ways, but you've never allowed yourself to fully let go and love and be present and all these things, because there's something that's causing you to just, like, in her eyes, protect herself. But I always say the same walls you have up to protect you are the same walls blocking your blessings. And if you have walls up, you are not allowing the relationship, you're not allowing love to flow in and out smoothly. All right. Because it's not just you not being able to fully love because you're guarded. It's you not being able to fully receive the love because you're guarded. Okay. And that is going to cause a lot of problems. And here's the crazy part, or here's the interesting part. You can get away more being guarded with a man who's not serious about you or not in love with you, because you holding back does not hurt him. And if anything, it enables him to hold back as well, or it allows him to not have to meet a certain standard in that relationship. But for the man who is serious about you, in love with you, generally wants to be with you and build life with you, that hurts him. That hurts him. And even though he may try to fight and fight and fight and stick it through, it's beating him down. And over time, he can't keep it going forever. All right. And now it leads to the relationship falling apart. And a lot of times that guarded woman is looking at, oh, well, now look at him in the way that he's acting. And if anything, that validates to her why she should remain guarded or become even more guarded. But she's not realizing some of this, if not a lot of this, is a product of her being guarded, right? So essentially, if you want to see the full potential of the relationship, you got to bring the walls down. Now, I know that sounds scary and that might sound crazy to some of y'all, but you got to learn to lean on God to protect you, not yourself. All right. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but let God be your protector. It's not you. Guarding your heart should not be about having walls up. It should be about not letting negativity corrupt it, not letting greed and fear and all these bad things get the best of you. That's what you want to guard it from, but not from, oh, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want this man to be too vulnerable with this man. I don't want him to think he can do this. It's like, no, all of that stuff is just getting in the way. And the beautiful thing is, the more you can bring those walls down and love fully, the quicker you can expose what kind of man you're dealing with. Because if he's not serious, that kind of level of vulnerability and love and openness is going to make it difficult for him to stick around. And it's going to expose him a lot faster. But if he is serious about you, it's going to pour into the relationship in an amazing way that allows you to really have a great experience. All right. And last but not least, as I just kind of mentioned, the last surprising way that a woman sabotages her relationship is not letting God lead you. So at the end of the day, forget just sabotaging the relationship. A lot of women, men as well, end up in the wrong relationship because they're not consulting with God. They're not asking God if this is where they belong, who they should be entertaining. But even going beyond that, I always say, listen, you could meet someone that you have a connection with, your soulmate. This is your person, right? And you guys are an amazing fit. That doesn't mean they're going to be perfect. That doesn't mean they're not going to make mistakes. That doesn't mean they're never going to hurt you. All right. There's going to be some bumps. That's just the experience of being a human being. But if you are focused on them and not how God wants you to show up and handle things, it is very easy to get derailed, to stoop down to that negative level, so to speak, right? And now to sabotage your relationship. But if you allow God to lead you through all of those moments, you would be able to see things from a different perspective that would allow you to reconcile and resolve and improve upon the relationship. All right. So I just want to encourage you, always put God first, always lean on God, get comfortable with praying, talking to God, and receiving God's guidance so that you can get what is truly best for you. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on you push away a good man if you do any of these 14 things. Can be put off by that, because when someone's not being themselves, they come across as phony. They come across as not genuine.